Welcome back. Today we're going to take a quick detour. We are not going to be doing part 3 of the skills. I'm still working on that. But since I had a couple minutes and someone had given me a suggestion of something they wanted to see, we're going to take a look at nameplates. So nameplates that go over your character and some stuff associated with that. So let's take a look first at what we currently have and talk about what we want to do. I don't like playing in the dark. So we can just go here to our time of day, and I usually just swap this between 0 and 3600, which basically gives me a 12-hour, assuming they're hours. I guess they don't have to be. And now we're not playing in the dark. Okay, so you can see all we really have right now is a health bar, right? It doesn't tell us the name of that person. It doesn't tell us if they're, friendly or an enemy. And it has another really big problem. So it is in screen space. So no matter how far you go away, okay, we didn't want to do that. But no matter how far you go away, it just stays the same size on screen, and you end up with this massive. So in screen space like this, you really can't have an unlimited distance. So I think we want to cut off the distance maybe somewhere about here where the nameplate disappears. And then we want to show the name of the person, and we want to have some kind of indicator of, hey, are they on our team? Are they not on our team? So, in our PvP system, we made it so that we could decide who was on our team and who wasn't and who we could damage. Well, now we need some kind of indicator of it so we know what team they're on, or if we can attack them. And so let's take a look. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to go up to our HUD, and we have to find our floating health bar. Here it is. And we need to add a name. So let's go up to text. Slide that up above the health bar. I changed the size to 22. Might have to play around with this depending on the max length of your name. Might even have to make a system that resizes it depending on the length of the name to make it fit, but this will work for us. We're going to make it a variable. TXT. Actually, I don't really like that. So the old way from Windows programming is you would use TXT for text boxes and LBL for player name. Player's kind of weird here. I'm going to drop the prefix and just put player name. We know what it is. Now I'm going to confuse myself because I did it differently. Differently in the test version. Okay, so we got player name here, our text block. I guess we'll just, it really doesn't matter if it's empty or not. We're going to set it. Okay, so now we've got that. So now we need to go into, if you remember, our base characters where we handle all that, so it's shared between player characters and mobs. And so if we go to our event graph, we've got this here. Right? So every tick on remote, on each, remember this is not your character. This is the part that's a little confusing about this. It's saying every remote character who's on another character's system, go update it, right? Which is a bit of a, this is very cheap, right? So this is not expensive, but it, maybe if you had 1,000 mobs or something, which you couldn't have, but if you did, maybe it'd be problematic to have all 1,000 of those updating. So we definitely want to put our distance check in front of this so that we don't do all this extra work if the nameplate's not going to even show up anyway. So let's do our distance check first. So we're going to have to grab this. And we're going to want to pull that over here. This is all going to need to get moved. Slid over. Maybe not that far, but let's pull this right here. Remember, remote side. And what we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, we're really interested in the player camera. So get player camera manager. And what's going to happen here is it's going to get player index 0. Now this would be problematic on authority, not just because there isn't a camera, but also because 0, because it's remote, means that we're getting the player who's playing, which this is not the player who's playing, this is someone else, or a mob. But we're getting the player, the camera of, and they're you know, it would be potentially problematic if you had multiple cameras, but we're not, so it's not going to be a problem. We're only going to have one camera per client, but we're basically saying, hey, grab the one from the client. So this is the camera from the client, because we couldn't get the camera attached to this player because, well, there isn't one. And so then what we're going to do is we're going to get the actor location of this actor, and we're going to do our standard subtract and get length to get a distance. So we're going to vector subtract. That gets us another vector, but we're not interested in the vector. We're interested in the length. And what we really want to know is it greater than some value? Okay, we're going to create a variable. We're going to call it hide nameplate beyond this distance. I find it helps to have descriptive variable names. Okay, and we'll just start with 2500. You can adjust this. Might be a bit short. And we're going to grab, let's make a category. So let's make a category called UI. We're going to create a few more things here. Okay, and so we've got that, and we're going to want a branch. So we're basically saying, hey, if it's beyond that value, okay, so that's true, then we want to hide the nameplate. So this is the nameplate here, set visibility. We'll need here one here for hiding. And we're also going to need another one for visible when it goes back in range. And we make sure we connect that up here to the health bar. Floating health bar here is probably a poor name. It's actually the floating nameplate now. It's the whole nameplate. Okay. So now, if it's hidden, we're not interested in doing anything additional, right? Because you can't see it, so why pay the price to update it? But we are interested on updating stuff if it is visible. So the next thing we want to do is, what do we got here? We ended up with a weird, I guess I didn't select that before. Okay, so let's grab this, and move this down. Okay, so now we're saying, hey, if it's visible, then go update the percent on the health bar. So that's all good. But we want to do some more things now. So we want to say, we want to get the name. So we're going to do get player state. Now this will be valid, should be valid, on human players, but it won't be valid on mobs. So we're going to use that to our advantage. And I wanted to show you something real quick, because I just thought it was interesting. Let me bring up I'm going to bring it up in another project here. So I tried to be clever the first time here. And I tried to say, oh, I'll check if it's valid, right? So instead of doing what I ended up here, which is an checking it is valid and actually changing the execution path, I said, oh, I'm going to be clever here. And I'm going to say if it's valid, then you can go get the player name and send it to set text, right? But if it's not valid, then we'll just call it mob, right? And this should work because it should generate two code paths. This seems like, I gotta say, this seems like a mistake in the scripting engine that they have for blueprints, because it should have generated two execution paths where only the one where it's valid pulled the player name. However, when I run this, I actually, on each time it hits the mob one, it actually throws an error saying player state is invalid. But it should have generated 2 execution paths and not even pulled that. So this definitely seems like an error. I was trying to be clever. Sometimes in blueprints it's not a good idea to be clever. So I just thought that was an interesting example where, you know, it turned out a lot different than I thought. What I thought it would generate behind the scenes, it did not. That's scripting languages for you. Okay, so we actually have to do it with execution. It's not going to be as clever, and it's going to take a bit more code, but we get more control over it. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, if it's valid, that means it's a player. So get player name. Now do not use this. This does not work. I actually don't even know why that's there. This is the one you want right here, get player name. You have to use the function to get it, call some stuff behind the scenes. And then what we're interested in here is we want to come all the way back here, and we want to get that player name. So this is the thing that we were going to call TXT player name or LBL player name. It's the player name text field on the widget. And we're going to do a set text, and we're going to do another set text. Got to do 2 of them. And so this is going to go here. Get that up out of the way. If it's valid, and then if it's not valid, we'll just hard code it here to mob. Okay. So the next thing that I got a request for this, and they said that they had done this, right? They've already got it setting the text and everything, but what they're really wondering is, how can we tell if they're friendly or not? And what we can do is we can check the team number. So what we're going to do here, and I'm going to issue a warning. 99 out of 100 times, do not use this in a multiplayer game. Get player character, player index. If you see this player index, delete it, and go back and do get controller. Okay? It's the attached controller. In this case, though, we actually do not want the attached controller. This is one of those rare cases where we actually want, just like we did with the manager. I don't want the player controller. Get player character. Yeah. So just like we did with the index on the manager, or the camera manager, we're getting the one from the client. Now this only works because it's remote. And so the same thing's going to happen here. We're going to basically say, hey, get me the player for this client, which is not me, right? It's not this one. And so now we're going to be able to cast that to OWS character. Again, we'll do a minimal cast, so we only cast as far as we have to. And like I said before, casting is not expensive. Don't worry about it. And team number. So this gets the team number of the person who's playing this client. And then we want to compare it to the team number of the mob or player that is this base character. So we can just pull team number directly. And we're basically going to say, are they equal or not? Now here we could do another branch, but because I had discussed doing the clever thing with the select, we're going to do that here. And you'll notice that it always loads index here, but you can actually take a type and load it in here, and then it'll automatically morph, which is kind of cool. And let's get some more room. And what we really want to do here is we want to come back to this player name, and we want to do set color and opacity. And we'll drag that up to here. And the execution path to here. Yep. Okay, so now we need to set these colors, so let's go and create some variables. And we're going to call this friendly color. And it's going to be of type slate color, and it'll let us set the color, but we're going to put that in UI, and then we're also going to create a second one called enemy color, and we'll put that in UI as well. And to begin with, we'll make the friendly color 010 green, and we'll make the enemy color 100 red. And then we'll put the friendly color. So if team numbers are equal, that means they're friendly. So friendly on true. And if team numbers are not equal, which would be the false, we'll have the enemy color. Okay. So let's give it a try. So we make sure we got 2 players. Oh, look at that. Okay. So we see future 3. Remember that was the name. So in this case, since we're not logged in, it's using the debug character name from the third-person game mode. That's what OWS behind the scenes puts in the player state as the name. See if it disappears. It does. That other one over there doesn't with the tree. We'll have to change that at some point. So now we got it disappearing nicely. And you go too far away. That's kind of cool. And we're both in the same team because we're actually the same character loading twice. And now let's see about the mob. Look at that. He's red. He's an enemy. There we go. So that's how we can add our nameplates, make them disappear at a certain distance. You can adjust that 2500. You might want to go a little bit further than that. And we can also now tell using the team number comparison whether they are an enemy or whether they're friendly. And that's all for today. Still working on the third part of our skill tree, but I wanted to do this one real quick while I had a couple minutes, because someone requested it. And I got a couple other requests too from people that are on the list. I'm going to fit them in when we get some time and in places where they make sense. And if you have any requests that you think we should add to our game here, let me know. Until next time, see ya.